Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Same Old Arsenal podcast. Press like if you're top of the league, press subscribe if you're top of the league. It's never going to get boring, ever, ever, ever saying we're top of the league. Welcome, everyone, from near and far. Tonight, I'm handing over to Chris, who's going to host Albert and I. Oh, Albert, welcome to the show and welcome back. Sorry, I should have done that.
That's fine about that. I knew he was going to say that anyway. It's fine. I knew he was going to
I'm
introduce me at some point.
honestly such the worst host ever. I forget to say like and subscribe, so I thought I'd do that first. Then I forget to even say hello to you. Anyway,
Ah,
you
it's
still
all
love
right,
me,
man.
don't you, Alb?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Lovely to have you back. I've missed you on our actual post game shows, but I have been thinking before we go over to Chris that if we'd have been doing our actual 10 minutes after the final whistle post game shows, Albert, I think we'd have been all over the place, screaming, shouting. Honestly, can you just only imagine? But anyway, we will get into that.
Mm.
Everyone, I'm handing over to Chris. Here we go.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're all a bit excited at the moment, aren't we? Because 2 points clear, and hopefully, when we play Everton in midweek, we get the chance to go 5 points clear. But let's do some reflection, because I don't know about you guys. I'm going to start with Albert, but
Yeah.
I think I described this morning. I think I described yesterday's win as the easiest 1-0 I've ever seen in my entire life. What was your kind of feelings post that match? Because we're going to go through it all chronologically, and we'll talk. We'll touch on team selection first. But just before that, just a quick sort of 1 minuter, a 60-seconder on like how easy or how comfortable did it make you feel yesterday?
Um, from what I've been seeing recently, it was a nice surprise, to be honest with you. Because the football, like, listen, we've had our sort of mini blip that people thought we would have during the season. We've had it. Well, hopefully that'll be the end of it. So, Chris, to be honest, it went better than what I thought it would be. I thought it'd be a tough game. We heard the rumours about Maddison, I think, the day before the game. But obviously, we found out he wasn't playing, so that was a big miss for them, man. So it kind of worked a bit more in our favour. And yeah, mate, we started the game fantastically, which is not what we've seen in recent weeks with Arsenal. So get on the front foot, build on the confidence from last week, confidence when I called it, most definitely. And yeah, I was just pleased where we started, mate. But we didn't exactly create too many opportunities. So is that too much to say, Chris? Is that too much?
No, that's good. That's good. Let's Amanda, just give me your 60-seconder on how you are. Was it the easiest 1-0 you've ever seen?
No, absolutely not. No, no, no. However, I was very relaxed all week. All week. As you know, and everybody knows, I predicted 1-0, and I think we are going to have low scoring games coming up now. Maybe not necessarily against Bournemouth, hopefully not. No disrespect to the Cherries, but I do feel it's going to be low scoring. I was really relaxed because I really believed we were going to win. I really did.
Mm.
Coming up to the Aston Villa game, I was absolutely petrified because I thought that was make or break our season, and that second half, I do feel was that. So no, not the. I don't think anything's going to be easy, Chris. I think
Yeah.
we've got 14 cup finals to go. Seriously, we have to treat everyone. You know, when like people often say, like non-Arsenal fans, like, "Oh, who have you got Saturday?" And I'll go Leicester away. Oh, you'll beat them. I go, "There's no easy. There's no easy game in this league. There really isn't."
No.
And before we carry on, I'm not going to congratulate United on winning the League Cup. But what I will say, and is I said this for about 6 weeks, I'm more scared about United than I am City. And I've said it every single week, Chris. I have. I've said it. I've said it on my Twitter. I've got United fans going, you should be scared of us. But hey ho, sorry, I'm diverting.
Actually, let's just touch on that before we go on to Diggins. Then, what's your thoughts on that, Albert? Because for me personally, there's a few things that I'm not as worried about United. I think without Casemiro in the team, they look very, very different.
Mm.
I think they can't play him for the entire season. We don't want to turn this into a Man United podcast, but just maybe a minute on your thoughts on what Amanda just said. But for me, they've got a lot of games to play. They're in a lot of competitions. I don't know. What do you just a quick one on that before we start talking about the selection decisions yesterday from Arteta?
You know what? I think quickly with United, generally speaking, Ten Hag's a good manager. Let's have it right. People can talk about the Eredivisie is different from the Premier League. We know that, but he's a good manager. And he will get them playing well. They've been, listen, they've been chalk and cheese from last season and what we saw. So I think this season's a bit early. You make a good point, Chris. They're in a lot of competitions. Yes, they got one over the bag today. But I would judge United more probably next season, if I'm being honest. 12, 18 months as opposed to this season. They've got the ball rolling as we have done with Arteta. You know, he's like come through the sticky parts and the fans, you know, asking questions every single week to every single game. But yeah, it'd be interesting how they do next season as opposed to this season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm hoping that the drop off comes because they're starting to get a little bit unbearable. But again, we're not going to go into that. We're not going to go into that lot up there in the northwest. Let's talk about our trip yesterday. And Amanda, yesterday I thought that it was really sensible level of rotation that Arteta did yesterday. He brought in Trossard. He decided to keep his powder dry with regards to playing Thomas Partey. And I'll be honest with you, beforehand, I thought to myself, if Partey is fit, you're better to play him away at Leicester, because I thought that would be a more tougher game than at home to Everton. So if he's doing some rotation, give Partey 60 minutes if he can do it. I wonder if he probably didn't have 60 minutes in him, and so that's why he's ended up playing Jorginho first. But actually, the way that we dominated the game, that selection just seems like a masterstroke now, doesn't it?
Well, it does. And, you know, we want to play Thomas Partey as less as we can. So he's fully fit because we're going to need him week in, week out soon. So if we don't have to play him at the moment, we shouldn't. Okay. Jorginho is fine. And I did feel that when it was about time, he did rotate a little bit. You know, I loved the fact that Trossard was on, Martinelli. I mean, the thing is, we've got the players to do it. We don't necessarily have the centre backs to do it, but we definitely have in the midfield to do it. And it was, you talk about a masterstroke, it was a masterstroke getting Jorginho. What would we have done? And I'll say this till I'm blue in the face, Chris, and I think it's just because I'm old. Honestly, I do not understand some, and I will say some, not all, of our fans throwing their toys out of a pram when Arteta and Edu go and sign a player. You don't know how he's going to play. If Jorginho would have been absolutely terrible, well, then we would have blamed Arteta and Edu. At the moment, he's doing a really good job for us. I wouldn't say he's world class, but he's definitely doing a good enough job in midfield for us. I just want it to be a lesson for everyone. Give players a chance before you say this one, that one. I don't see Mudryk lighting any fires at Chelsea. I know he's playing in a poor team, but don't see any of that. And I think we should just be thankful we've got Jorginho, because the idea is Partey's number one and he's the replacement in case he gets injured. So it was weird because when Partey came on, Chris, and he made that run, I was like, oh my God, slow down. You know, I want you to be, oh, you're our number one choice. We need you fit, you know, but it was only 1-0 and it should have been 2-0, but I'm sure we'll discuss that.
Yeah, we certainly will. But just let's keep on the just the team selection stuff, Albert. So for me, the reason I thought we should go for Partey if fit. I mean, he's obviously number one choice, but bring him forward in terms of when he's expecting to play, is because I feared Leicester. Because what Jorginho isn't great at is he gets run past the transition, and I feared that Leicester would hit us with transition. But I think, as you said, that we benefited from the fact that Maddison was ill. I think he would have occupied pockets of space that maybe Jorginho is sitting in, and perhaps it could have been a different game. But can I just get your general thoughts around Jorginho? It felt like because we were so ball dominant, it ended up being the perfect type of game for someone like Jorginho, to me.
Yeah, look, it's the thing with him is that he's not an unknown quantity. He's been in the Premier League for about 5 years, I think it's 5-6 years. So I understand the Arsenal fans' thoughts when we signed him. It's the Chelsea Arsenal thing, but like I said, Arteta likes him in it. So I think what he's done is he's not just given us experience. He's very good composure-wise and ball progression-wise. That pass to Saka was exceptional, man, in the first half. That's what he does. Someone's put it in the chat actually. I think about Chelsea fans above did. I know a lot of Chelsea fans that didn't want him to go.
Yeah, Carl Stark said
Yeah.
it. Look,
Yeah,
they're moaning he got him too
yeah,
cheap.
yeah, because the
I
way
know.
he's come in
Why
and
wouldn't he?
he's yeah, the way he's come in and he has bossed it in the midfield, because ball retention is so key, Chris, man, in particular midfield area, and relieving pressure off your centre backs, if anything, so that when we do turn over possession. But yeah, he gives a composure, and I think he's a massive influence on the likes of someone like Erdegaard, especially because you've got someone that can keep the ball well and find you in the pockets of space, as well as we know not having Erdegaard come too deep. You can play him a bit more further forward with Jorginho in there, as a pivot or someone who plays in the like deep line, like midfielder area. But yeah, like I said, listen, if you like Arteta, you've got to stand by his choices that he makes in bringing the guy to the club. So he's been impressive, Chris, man. Like, listen, he's not sideways passing. The amount of times he passed the ball forward, I saw the stats thrown out yesterday. How well he done. So come in, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that exact same thing. I don't know about you, but I did not expect somebody to be so progressive, because we got told we were getting like a crab who was going to just distribute the ball sort of horizontally across the pitch, didn't we?
Yeah, it's
Who
true, and
told you
and
that?
yeah. But it comes back to what I said before. Like Arsenal fans, if they take off the sort of he's ex-Chelsea and this and that, yes, he's probably the wrong side of, was he 31? I think he is.
Yeah, 31.
But like you can see in the games he's played for Arsenal how good he's been, particularly with the likes of Thomas Partey, who, let's be honest, he is high risk injury. So I'm even surprised he's played the amount of games he played this season, Thomas Partey, considering what he's missed before playing for Arsenal. So
Chris Albert, we've had a comment in the chat from Melvin. Hello, Uncle Melvin. I would play Partey and Jorginho together. Would you?
If you did that, then Jack would be at the team, right? Because obviously you're not going to go Erdegaard, so that I don't know how that would. I don't think that combination. Not that it wouldn't work. I just think you have to drop someone else, and I don't think he's going to do that.
No, I also think that if you're going to play, because I'm assuming people are thinking Jorginho in one of the number 8 roles. Like I'd much rather see somebody like a Fabio Vieira coming in for Granit Xhaka if Granit Xhaka isn't available, or Smith Rowe is just now in full training. So I don't think we need to be playing Jorginho. Jorginho is what he's always he's been brought in to do, which is the backup. That's his function, is to be the backup, is to rotate with Partey. Interesting. So as we were just talking about, it was really interesting, Albert. Like we were just talking about the verticality in his passes, which I didn't really expect that we get from him. But one of the things that perhaps is the difference is he's been parachuted, he's been popped into an Arsenal team that are full of confidence, that know their positions, and it's a lot easier to play well when you're surrounded with other players playing well, and it just wasn't happening at Chelsea. But I was thinking about this this morning and trying to work out, and I go to you, Amanda, on this, if that's all right. How much of that game yesterday was Arsenal being awesome versus Leicester being just really meek? Because I just thought they were so passive. There was no intensity. They weren't pressing in pockets of in the ground, in different zones. It was a bit weird. It wasn't what I expect from a Brendan Rodgers team, but they've been like that all season. So again, that question is, how much of it is Arsenal were brilliant yesterday, particularly in that first half, in controlling everything and stopping Leicester from having a single shot on target in the entire match, versus Leicester just being terrible?
Well, it was both, really. They weren't very good, but we were very good. We started off like we were at home. We started off like we have been doing for months on end. Had that little blip, didn't we, against Everton and whatever. We carried on how we finished at Aston Villa. We are just full of intensity. It was all us. So much possession. It's hard, isn't it? Because you always have this, well, Leicester weren't very good, but were Arsenal very good? I thought we were, actually. I really enjoyed watching us. And I had no doubt in my mind that we were going to win. However, when the goal was, cancelled off by VAR, I thought, oh my God, is it going to be one of these days? My mind sort of changed a little bit. And there was a lot of, there was tension. The thing is now, as someone said on social media, it's just become not enjoyable anymore because we're so stressed about winning the league. Trying to win the league is becoming, and as games go on, it's going to be even worse. The only time we're going to really start and enjoy it, if we're 4-0 up with 15, 20 minutes to go. Being 2-0 up don't mean anything. You know that.
Mm.
Unfortunately, Gabriel was immense yesterday, but he's always got a mistake in him, as Saliba has, as Ramsdale have. So I'm so on edge at the moment, but I've been preaching that you've got to enjoy every moment, and we are, and I am. But it's becoming now where I'm starting to look 2 fixtures ahead, where I was only ever doing 1. So
Yeah.
we've got Everton, and then I'm looking at Bournemouth. And I already said about Bournemouth, but Everton is no foregone conclusion. They are going down if they don't start winning. So if you've ever seen a low block in your life, you're going to see it on Wednesday night. So Arteta needs to do something different.
Yeah, definitely. And we've come across that. The difference between the Evertons and the Brentfords that we've played of late, Albert, has been that for Leicester, they just can't defend like that, can they? And I think particularly on their own ground, their fans just wouldn't have accepted them just sitting deep. Just want to get your view on whether or not it was Arsenal being brilliant or whether or not it was Leicester being meek. And also, just as a little fun question, do you think Aaron Ramsdale would have preferred a deck chair, a hammock, or one of those lazy boy recliners because he had nothing to do yesterday?
And that's the thing. It's when you sort of analyze it and dig it quite deep. Ramsdale wasn't worked at all during the course of the match. I think they only had one shot, and that was Dewsbury Hall that went wide. Yes. Other than that, Leicester's a weird team. They were awful before the World Cup. Then they picked up a little bit back after that, but then the recent games it's been a bit iffy, and they have got a lot of injuries. But Arsenal, listen, we haven't been playing that great before Aston Villa. Like I said, we went into that game 1 point in 9. We get the win. We come back to the Midlands again, and we dominated. And one thing we have to remember as well as Arsenal fans is our way of form is fantastic. I don't know if I've got this accurate, Chris. I know you're pretty better with stats. I think before that game yesterday, Arsenal was 7 points better off than any other team in the league away from home. If I think that's true,
Something like that, yeah.
And that shouldn't be sniffed upon. The clean sheets are dried up, which is not great, but to get one yesterday was amazing. But Leicester, I'd give more credit to Arsenal. That wasn't a smash and grab yesterday. They deserved to win that game. We should have gone in at halftime at least 1-0 up. Score again in the second half. It doesn't stand. Looked quite tight, but apparently it was offside. Who knows? No lines were drawn. But yeah, I think more credit to Arsenal, Chris, to be honest with you. Like I said, it wasn't a smash and grab. We deserved to win. We controlled huge chunks of that game yesterday. And yeah, for me, back-to-back wins, so can't complain.
Yeah, can't complain. And actually, form-wise, I'm just looking at it. The last 5 games, we're actually 9th in the league in terms of form.
Okay.
Because of that loss. Slowly, yeah, that blip. So that was really important yesterday, getting that victory on there, starting to rise us up through that form guide. And actually, also the players themselves would have taken a massive bit of confidence, sort of injection of the adrenaline from the Aston Villa result. But yesterday felt to me more like the team that is at the top of the league squeezing the life out of an opponent in Leicester, who they just gave them no sniff whatsoever. And that was really, really good. But let's talk about some of the controversial moments in that first half, because the first one that came up, I genuinely, I've had a few mates on Twitter saying to me, yeah, Ben White, he's holding the guy's hand, so it was silly from Ben White, and it was a foul. Honestly, I've watched it 4 or 5 times. Maybe I've watched it 10 times. And Amanda, I still don't think that's enough to be called a foul. What do you reckon?
I mean, I'm always, you know how truthful I am. I never go along with the crowd. I don't care what anyone thinks of what I say. I'm not one of these people that just does things for likes or anything. I went absolutely mental. I just went mental. I was watching it live, and we couldn't rewind it. It wasn't the sort of thing you can rewind. And I'm looking at Twitter for, say, the overseas fans that can watch every match easily, and everyone was up in arms. And I just sat there. So what happened was, last week I went to the loo at half time in the game when we scored, right? Cole goes out to the kitchen. I think Cole goes out to the loo or the kitchen. Trossard scores, and then he goes out. And I went, that is definitely a beautiful goal. I was focusing on that. My dad sat there and went, "I think VAR are going to look at that," and I said. I started shouting at my dad, going, "What are you talking about? Don't be ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with this goal. Nothing. The goalkeeper punched it out. It gets the try." I said, "There's nothing." And I was like this. I was fuming, Chris. And then all of a sudden, when it went to VAR and he goes to the screen, there's never a time they go to a screen they don't change it. So I knew straight away. As soon as he was running over there, he took about 10 seconds. It didn't even take long.
Yeah, it was.
He comes back and he cancels it. Now, I'm fuming, Cole's fuming, my dad's gone a bit quieter. I do not understand what clear and obvious means. I can still watch it now. I've watched it like you 10, 20 times. I still watch it now and I go, is he holding him? Is he not holding him? Is he backing in? Is he pushing him? And we're like this. How if that referee could tell in 10 seconds when they're normally there 5 minutes having a look? Now, I gauge my view on rival fans, not Arsenal fans, rival fans. You had Gary Lineker saying he couldn't believe it, and he's a Leicester fan. You had one of my City friends who is baiting me for weeks on end about how much better Foden is than Saka and all this going on. You're going to bottle the league and all this, saying to me for the first time, I can't see anything wrong with that. Absolutely can't see anything wrong with it. I sort of took that and I thought, you know what? We have been so hard done by. This is getting beyond a joke. I am never one for conspiracy theories, Chris. I never believe anything when people say there's an agenda against us. But then I don't know how much later, Saka gets pulled down for a penalty that's not even looked at. Now, what are we looking at here? If they feel that Ben White's held his hands and it's a foul, okay. But Saka was a penalty. Now, if this was the other way round, so then a couple of gooners went at me and said, that's a foul by Ben White. It was ridiculous what he was doing. Fair enough, it was chalked off. And I said, okay, if that's your opinion, I don't agree and that's fine. But then talk to me about Saka, because surely everyone can see that's a penalty.
Yeah.
It's just an absolute ridiculous what is going on with VAR. And it could cost us the league if it goes to what? The next 14 games, there could be so many more decisions. How many more, Chris and Albert, are they going to get wrong against us?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I guess if you're going to look at the positives, we can say it hasn't impacted us this time around because ultimately we've got the win. So it's a little bit easier to speak about this knowing that we've got the win. But it's becoming a bit of a catalogue of issues now, isn't it, Albert? And what's your take on it? Can you actually make a case to say, well, he has got his hand? Because to me, Ward punches with his other hand. Like what Ben White does, whether he's touching him, whether he's dragging, whatever he's doing, there isn't enough in what Ward does with his punch to suggest that he's impeded him. I mean, what was your kind of take on that? And then also, let's go to the Saka one as well. Saka penalty.
Yeah. So I mean, as many Arsenal fans thought at the time, it was a great finish by Trossard. And
oh yeah.
So when they were checking it, I was thinking, what could they be checking it for? So when they showed it, I mean, the eagle eye of the VAR official spotted Ben White holding Ward's hand. I thought, is they giving it for that? I thought that to me, that's very 50-50. I've seen more blatant penalties that should have been given this season that have not been given. I saw even I think the journalist, he works for the Times, Martin Ziegler. He said VAR wasn't brought in for this. That goal should never have been disallowed. And I was shocked it was. And as Amanda said, even Guy Lineker said it yesterday. He said, even as a Leicester fan, I'm surprised that goal got chalked off. And I think that speaks volumes. So, yeah, I don't think that's a very good decision personally. Now, people have asked a question, as they probably asked you guys as well. Oh, if that happened to Arsenal, would you not have been kind of felt harsh done by? I mean, in our favour, sorry, that the goal got disallowed. I'm like, well, yes, we're Arsenal fans, but I just don't think that was a foul. I don't think there's enough there personally. Just because there's physical contact in the box doesn't mean it's a foul. So I was very surprised that got chalked off. And as for the Saka one, I thought that was. I even thought it was even more a penalty when I saw the replay. And how quickly that got checked, Chris, was crazy to me. I'm sorry to not even ask him to go and look. Was nuts to me. Suter got himself in a poor position. as you might say, I'm arguing against my own thing saying before that to me there was enough contact for that to be a penalty. That's the difference. So how that wasn't given, who know? I've got no answers, Chris. Honestly, mate.
Yeah. Do you know? I think my issue is this word threshold. What's the threshold? Because
Yeah.
if you as a referee are going to say, lads, today I'm gonna set a very low threshold. So if you're an attacking player and you are holding the goalkeeper in the box, I'm going to give it and I'm going to rule it out. Fine. But that same threshold then needs to apply if you're a defender and you're holding a player in the box. I'm going to give a penalty. And I think that's the lack of consistency that we all have issues with. And this idea that the threshold seems to just change depending on the situation. No, set a high threshold, set a low threshold, but set a consistent threshold regardless of what you're going to do. If you're going to be pedantic and go to actually, maybe it's not even the referee. Maybe we should be looking at the VAR, whoever that was, and that whoever that was needs to be saying, why are you setting such a low threshold for contact for Ben White, but you're not setting that same threshold for Suter? That's my big issue. But do you know what? As we said, dominant first half. We dominated possession. We dominated chances. We dominated territory. I think we had some really good performances in players like Jorginho, and I thought Trossard as well, playing in that. People, do you know what makes me laugh? I've heard people talking about Trossard as this false nine, and I'm thinking, he did the same sort of thing that Eddie Nketiah does, or that Gabriel Jesus does, but people don't talk about those guys as false nines. He's dropping off, collecting the ball. He's linking other players in. Last season, under Lacazette, we didn't talk about him as a false nine. I just find it interesting, Amanda, that people are talking about Trossard as this false nine when actually he's just doing the same job. And that's one of the great things this season, is that Arteta's got players in who have been able to be interchangeable. We lost Gabriel Jesus. We brought Eddie Nketiah in. He's done the business, but he started to fade off recently. So he's brought Trossard in, and I thought Trossard played well yesterday. But just your thoughts on just Trossard's performance up until that. Obviously, a great goal that he scored, which shouldn't have been chalked off. Pleased with seeing him through the middle.
Yeah, lovely. He's fitting in really well, isn't he? It's like he's been there for years. He really is. And he's already in the, you can see the team spirit. You can see how he's fitting in well. And I think he's a really versatile player as well. I think that when I saw his name, and I originally and straight away thought Martinelli through the middle, which is what we've been sort of not screaming for, but saying that might be a good idea. Eddie hasn't been firing on all cylinders. We need someone to put the ball in the back of the net. Martinelli has now got 2 in 2 after being called rubbish on TalkSport by Gabby Abglon. I can't say his name. Agbonlahor. That's it.
Yeah.
I did tweet him yesterday with a picture of Gabby scoring 2 goals because I am immature. And no, I'm really pleased with Trossard's performance. I think he fits Arsenal well. He fits Arteta well. He fits us well.
Yeah, he really, really does. And actually, he had a really good game and, got himself an assist as well, Albert, didn't he? And I was really, do you know what I was really pleased about that goal? I think Martinelli and Trossard, who have always just been almost rotating with each other, they showed that they can play together, but also they were rotating in terms of where their positions were on the pitch, because when Trossard slips Martinelli with an absolutely beautiful little nutmeg as well, it's Trossard occupying that left wing position, Martinelli running through the middle. So I think that, what's your view? I thought that had a bit of an impact. The connection that the two of them made was good. And I thought Trossard's performance was good to then set up Martinelli to get what was ultimately the winning goal.
Yeah, Trossard's been good, man. Listen, I was more than happy when he signed for us. I know Arsenal fans had a they had an issue. They had an issue. Yeah, they had an issue with his age. I'm like, this is beyond crackers. But anyway, that's another conversation. But yeah, listen, he's done well since he's had his little cameo appearances for Arsenal. He scored against Brentford. Should have had another one yesterday. Beautiful little assist for Martinelli. And Chris, as I always say, for some Arsenal fans or sections, is my keyword. I always like to say, if you was unsure about Leandro Trossard, then what have you been watching for the last 2-3 years in the Premier League? That would be my answer to that question. So he's fitting in really, really well. And the thing I was pleased with Arsenal is, we had the first half we had without actually working their goalkeeper. and our first shot on target in the first minute of the second half, we score. So that's great to get us on the front foot and then pull Leicester out of their game plan. But to be honest, Chris, even after that, we had good passages of play, like great moments of play between Jorginho, Odegaard, and Saka in particular. Just brilliant, intricate play and pulling Leicester all over the place. But yeah, great start to the second half when you've had the first half we've had, where we should be 1-0 up. And that sets a precedent for the rest of the game, really. Great finish, by the way. Great finish. And I'm glad he's okay after it, because I saw that replay when indeed he's gone through, accidentally, by the way. So glad he came through that. I'm glad he got the goal, because he did in the first half. Martinelli was a bit, it looked like he's going to have one of them games, but I've got to see him get on the score sheet, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's really, I think for players like Martinelli, he really thrives on that confidence and belief. And how much, Amanda, do you think, 2 goals in 2 games, as you said, how much of an impact do you think that's going to have on him now as we're in this crunch period of the season?
It was interesting when Albert went, it's about time we got on the score sheet. Got on the score sheet last week. So 2 in 2 Alb he's got. And I think that obviously it's going to help his confidence, isn't it? He's desperate to get Jesus back, as we all are. I mean, we've got players coming back. Emil Smith-Rowe, Jesus, they are going to be like a new signing. And it's so exciting. And Martinelli has been a little bit off, not terrible, but a little bit off. It is understandable. I think he's played, I may be wrong, nearly every game since the beginning of the season. And it's nice that goals are coming from different areas again. We need Odegaard's shooting boots back on. Saka's obviously regularly scores. So it's always good that Martinelli scores. And then hopefully when Jesus gets back and Smith-Rowe, they will add to it. But listen, we're going to be fighting for everything. We need every player to put 110% in. We've got a massive chance of winning the league. So any bit of confidence we can get. And just want to, talk about confidence was I had Sky's presenter Ali Bender on a few days ago. Don't know if you've watched the show. If you haven't, go and watch it. It's absolutely brilliant.
I will.
She interviewed Trossard and White, and she said they're all so focused. They're not interested in anything outside apart from it. And she said that she's been around Man United, Man City, Liverpool, when people have won the league, won Champions Leagues. She said there's a certain vibe. You can feel it. She said, I predicted Leicester were going to win the league at Christmas. She said, and everyone laughed at me, but I predicted it because the vibe was there. She said, we've got that vibe. She said, as much as it pains me to say because she's a Chelsea fan, we've got that vibe. We need to keep that vibe. And I think with anyone scoring, do you know what it is? What I love watching, Chris, what I love, is the team. They're a team. There's no, like when Aubameyang and oh my God, I forgot. I can see his face. I've forgotten his name.
Ozil.
No, Aubameyang's mate, his brother. Lacazette. Sorry, brain fog, age. Lacazette and Aubameyang. It felt like they were their own team. Then there was Ozil. It's nothing like that now. It's just one, and with the fans as well, just one. So I'm so excited about this vibe she was talking about. And she's also interviewed Arteta as well. It was a really interesting conversation, but she feels we've got that vibe.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Albert, I want to get your thoughts on this, because we don't see, like, you hear about this sort of stuff, but you only occasionally hear about this sort of stuff, about the mentality of the players. Like, because when you hear it in interviews or in post matches and stuff like that, and I suffer and I struggle to see the difference between just the footballing cliches. Oh, we played one game at a time. We just need to be focused. You hear that from the highly trained, media trained players, and it doesn't really mean anything. But when you get to talk, or when you hear about commentators or people within the game talking about that level of focus, it really does it sort of makes your heart skip a beat, doesn't it? Do you feel like this team, how long have you felt like this team has that, as Amanda called it, the vibe?
very recently, because obviously the way the season's gone, to be honest with you, winning breeds confidence. We had our blip, but I think it helps obviously with the recruitment as well, and more people on board with Arteta, even though you've got some silent ones out there somewhere. But yeah, I think the Amazon documentary and I think the Monday Night Football with Carragher, I think shed a good light on Arteta personally. I gotta be honest here with Mikel Arteta. For me personally, I said this on my channel. Like watching the Amazon documentary, I did like him a bit more, to be honest with you. Not that I disliked him before. Let me make that clear. And I think for me, and he said this himself, he does lose it on the touchline, but I do find it funny sometimes. When I was at the Newcastle game with Amanda, I said, "This guy, he was losing it on the touchline, but he knows he shouldn't like." But you have to rein it in a little bit, Chris, because the players see that and we lose control. But I like him a bit more if I'm being honest as Arsenal fan. I'm speaking for myself when I say that. So that does endear you to somebody. But yeah, like I said, it helps with the recruitment in terms of the likes of Zinni coming here, Jesus coming here, Jorginho's coming here. Guys that's played within the league and are winners. And if you've got a young, infectious team around that, with Ramsdale's still quite young, Ben White's still quite young, Saka, is only 21, Martinelli's young. That if you get that recipe right, Chris, and as people say, give the manager time, then good things can happen. And that has happened for Arsenal this season. No one saw it coming, but long may it continue, mate.
Yeah. And do you know what? Just linked to that, nobody saw it coming. I still carry the scars of previous seasons with me.
Yeah.
With games like yesterday, I absolutely carry the scars. I want to stick with you, Albert, and then I'll move on to Amanda.
Yeah.
Do you still have those? And I'll give you an example of one of those scars. When Jamie Vardy came on for Iniacho on 62 minutes, I think I must have tweeted something like, "Here comes Vardy for his customary goal," something like that. You just expect it, but the confidence, the vibe, the focus of this team now means that my projections are based on historical. It's based on historical Arsenal and where we've fallen down. This team so far this season doesn't mean we're going to win anything, but so far this season has shown a focus. Do you still? So my question: do you still carry those same sort of scars like I did with that Jamie Vardy substitution, who incidentally did basically bugger all in the entire game?
Oh, them scars always be there, man. I've got plenty of scars and not related to football, man. But, but yeah, Chris, I hear what you're saying. I do, because you talk about when we play Tottenham and we go away to them and Harry Kane's going to score his office penalty, and then we play Liverpool, we're just not going to get over the line and beat them. At United, like we've all come through all them tests this season, man, and we've not really had that as Arsenal fans. Let's be honest, like winning big games of football, keeping a clean sheet at the Bridge. I mean, doesn't happen very often. We haven't kept many there. So, yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, Chris. Like, there is a lot of scars as Arsenal fans, depending on, particularly, depending on your age as well, because we see some tough times at the club, man. But yeah, listen, we've come through some good tests this season, man, and there's games we've won this season, Chris, where Arsenal a few seasons ago we would have lost them, man. We would have lost them. We would have been petrified at home to Fulham, and the away game at Palace. Yes, it was first game of the season. I get it, but these games we were not winning these type of games, but we are, and we're keeping clean sheets. I think we got 10 clean sheets this season. If I got that right, that's a good return. That's a good return, and that helps. So yeah, we're kind of wrong in some rights. I would still like us to see us go in the league and go and stuff Liverpool at Anfield, because that would be my pride and joy. Trust me, I'll be waxing lyrical if that happened. But yeah, I see what you mean. But no, it's a good point, mate.
Do you, Amanda? Do you still carry those same sort of? Because for me, it's an irrational sort of projection. This whole, like, honestly, when Jamie Vardy came on, I was like, oh God, this is when it turns. But again, like I said, he didn't really do very much. And you got Tielemans came on at the same time, didn't really do very much. Patson Daka came on with like 10 minutes to go. This was a guy that 2 years ago I had a few mates saying we should be getting this guy because he's absolutely mustard. So I really liked Albert's point, and I just wanted you to broaden that out from your perspective, Amanda, on the games that last season or seasons before we go and lose, like the Fulham at home, or I'll tell you another one, Brighton on New Year's Eve. That was one where I looked at that and said, this could be the moment where our title charge and the blip starts to see us spiral. But we came through that with flying colours. So from your perspective, the scars, you still have those. And I guess really, are you seeing this kind of this different team that's knocking down all of these narratives?
It's really hard, isn't it? Because I could go back to the mid-70s, and there's always, you pray that Arsenal are not going to F it up. You just pray. And 9 times out of 10 over the years, they did. They did. But you look at the Invincibles, and I can't say that but the Invincibles was a very different different players, different season, different playing field as well. This season, I've called it a couple of times, Chris. I've said we won't beat Everton. I said it on Toffee TV. He's coming on Tuesday night, actually, Baz. I said it. He laughed at me. He said to me, if we even get a draw against you, I said, we're not going to win. I don't think we'll lose, but we're definitely not winning at your place with the new manager bounce. So I've sort of called it a little bit. But I was really confident yesterday. I was so relaxed. So that is massive for me because I worry every game. I've predicted more wins this season than I ever have, and I don't like doing that. So I feel like I'm going to bock it. However, this is Arsenal. There is going to be bumps in the road where we're not going to expect it coming up. We may get a draw somewhere, and all of a sudden all hell lets loose because City might win, and then we're on like point ahead or point behind them, and it's going to the wire. But what I do love about this team, and what I love about the fans, and what I love about us. And when you're at the Emirates, you can see it, you can feel it. The minute the opposing team scores, we are up clapping our team to give them confidence to get on with the game, believe in themselves because we believe in them, to get a goal back and go and win the game. And that is building. If you saw the fans yesterday at Leicester, unbelievable support, unbelievable passion and pride they've got for that team. I love watching the videos, the pictures. I don't get to many away games, although I'm still looking for West Ham away, and I am going to tout myself. So if you've got one spare ticket, please, I don't care where it is in the stadium, I want to go. I just think that this season, those scars are being started to fill in, if you know what I mean. And I think that no one's cocky. I don't see anyone anywhere, any Arsenal fan, saying we're going to win the league, we're going to do it, we're going to easily do it. I've seen people with a bit of confidence that we've got a shot at it, but I do feel, you see, I work with a lot of West Ham, Tottenham, and they're just going, you're going to blow it. And I sit there and I go, we'll have to wait and see. I don't say anything. I just go, we have to wait and see. At the moment, I'm enjoying being top of the league and being 20. How many points have we had at Chelsea now? 23 points ahead of Chelsea. We've got 20 more goals than them, probably 22 now. I mean, when have you ever heard of that? And I did say they could get relegated. If they carry on doing what they're doing, we've got 14 games to go. But on a side note, the scars are fading, young Christopher. They are fading. But I just want to put this comment up from this guy that says, evening and respect to you, PG. I didn't always agree with your support of Arteta at the start, but you were totally right and know your football, man. I'm not sure how to take that. I'll take it as a compliment, but I know sort of what it means. It's not about whether I know my football or not. It's about whether you can see a manager that could fit us. Pep fitted City, Klopp fitted Liverpool, Arteta fitted Arsenal. And because these, how can I put this, spoilt fans thought he wasn't good enough because it was his first job. Well, you know what? Hopefully come April, May, you'll be eating humble pie. But I do respect the comment and for coming back at that. And I just feel it is different, Chris. We could go 2-0 down, and I still feel in my heart we could get a draw, where before I'd be thinking, oh, we've lost it. So there is a slight change in me. I'm much more positive.
Yeah, it's something that's been building for a while. We talked about it on this show quite a while about how something has been building. I think what is nice is you always used to get the divide between, those that go to away games and they're always singing and the atmosphere is amazing. Well, the home games now, the atmosphere is amazing too.
Exactly.
After we went 1-0 down against Man City and Tomiyasu made that shocking mistake, where I was, and actually the whole stadium suddenly started chanting his name. That's how we're backing this team now. We're backing this manager. Something that was said in the chat was Barry Sassoni said that Arteta reminds him of George Graham. I've heard a few people talk about that.
Yeah.
Albert, from your perspective, can you see those similarities?
Ooh, that's the first time I've heard that one. It's not a bad comparison, is it?
Have you not heard
George,
people say that he's a mix of Wenger and Wenger and George Graham?
No,
Also,
I've not seen that. I've not seen that.
I've said it from the beginning. He's a complete mix of both. You don't listen to me, Albert.
Yeah, you know my feelings about Gorgeous George, man. I love him, man. That's my guy, man.
George.
Yeah. No, I've not thought about that really. You know what? I have to think about that one a bit, Chris and Amanda. But it's not a bad comparison. It's not a bad comparison.
It's an interesting one. And I've heard a few people say that this season has felt a little bit like, the late 80s, early 90s Arsenal. George Graham is he shipped out a load of more senior players.
Yes.
He brought in a load of younger players. Quite a few homegrown talents, like your likes of your Rocky Rocastles, you had your Mickey Thomases. He started to bring through those players, and he started to augment the team. It feels the way that it's being built and what he's trying to foster. And also, if you think about all of the ridiculous situation with Arsenal being fined by the FA for failing to control players and Arsenal having VAR stuff thrown against them, it all feels very like the sort of stuff that George used to say, okay, lads, there's that famous video, I think it's from the 1990-91 season, where he said, they're all just trying to knock Arsenal. Everyone's trying to knock Arsenal, but we're just going to keep playing our games. You just keep winning your football, lads, because there's nothing that they can do when you just keep winning your football. And that's where those similarities, I quite like those similarities.
Yeah.
But there was another question, which I'll stick with you again, Albert, and then I want to get Amanda's views on this. Simon Leicester in the chat just said something really interesting. And I don't know, Albert, if you think that this is going to have a positive impact for us. He said 4 out of the 14 games that we have left are outside of London. Do you think that's going to have a positive impact for us in terms of lack of travel time? Players can. It's not. You're not having to go up to. Well, we are going to have to go up to Newcastle, but you're not having to do that every other week.
Manchester. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you think that's going to have an impact?
I think even the Premier League, it's. I think that the only impact I think you would normally really have it is when you're playing European football, like the Thursday Sunday thing. But I think the Premier League, I don't think it'll have that big a factor. I think what works, and I think what's a good thing this season, like I said, I have to go a long way I'd have to go back over seasons, Chris, to see when Arsenal had a away form like this, because I don't remember it. They've been excellent away from home, but no, it's a good point. It's a fair point, man. I didn't really think of that, but I think if it's European, yeah. But go on, Chris, sorry, mate.
No, I was just going to say, I didn't think about that. I didn't realise that we had so many games outside of London. And part of me was just thinking, I wonder if that has a positive impact because you don't have to travel as much. They get to spend a lot more time together. You probably shave off like going to Manchester, going to Anfield, going to a lot of up north games back to back.
Yeah.
I mean, also the other thing that I think is positive for us is we've only got 6 away games. Although, as you said, Albert, we've got. We've been really good away from home this season, and we've got 8 home games. So it's starting to look up. Amanda, from your perspective, do you think it makes any difference whatsoever?
Well, obviously, we're going to talk about Europa in a minute, but between Sporting going away, we're at Bournemouth at home and Fulham away. So, yeah. And then the return leg at our place, we play Palace at home on a Sunday. So it has fallen quite nicely, if I'm honest. Who'd want to be going to Newcastle on a Sunday afternoon after we've got back from Portugal? You just wouldn't. So I'd not really thought about it before, but Simon often comes out with good points. You should go and follow him on Twitter, actually. He's great. I think it's gonna help. Absolutely. And do you know what? About bloody time that it did work for us. Obviously, all the April fixtures have come out, but I'm just looking. So we've got it'll go Bournemouth, Sporting away, Fulham away, then it goes Sporting at home, and then it goes Palace at home.
Yes.
And then what's the end of March? I don't know why there's no football. Is it an international or something? But there's no football on that weekend. So we're going to get 2 weeks off, and then we play
Might be
Leeds
FA
at
Cup.
home.
Might be FA Cup. Might be FA Cup.
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, okay. So we've got Leeds. I mean, look,
At home, yeah.
I don't want to say it, but we should be winning these games. If you want to win the league, and we got to win dirt, there's going to be games that we are going to be 0-0 at 88 minutes, and we could get one in the last few minutes. We like Man United did in Alex Ferguson time, they used to call it, in Fergie time, didn't they? But we're definitely changing, and having the fixtures not so far. Yeah, of course it's going to help. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm looking at that fixture list as well, and I'm thinking,
Same,
yeah,
yeah.
it could be worse. Albert, from your perspective, Sporting Lisbon, happy with that?
Yeah, it's gonna be a tricky one. When you get to that stage of the competition, the quality should be a bit better than the group stages. Put it that way. Could be a bit of a bit of a bore fest in terms of the group games. But yeah, you know what? More than winnable, Chris. Man, listen, I'm not going to grumble. Some of the teams that are in that last 16, we could have had it a little bit harder, if I'm being honest. And that's no disrespect to Sporting Lisbon.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? I think they are something like 3rd or 4th in the Portuguese Super League. And so I looked at that draw and thought to myself, if Arteta's going to need to do a little bit of rotation, you'd think that that's the sort of thing where you could afford to be playing your likes of Tierney's and Tomiyasus and Jorginho's, and hopefully by then Gabriel Jesus is back, but we're playing Nketiah, and you're giving some time to Fabio Vieira. So I think something like that gives us a little bit more license to rotate, and the fact that we're away first as well, it'll be a really interesting one to see if Arteta tries to go hard, like go first team, win it, and then he can rotate for the home game. But I was more than happy with that. I'm also more than happy with it because I'm going to try and drag the wife out to Lisbon to treat her to a nice weekend, a romantic weekend in Lisbon, and maybe just maybe there'll be some football that just happens to take place on the Thursday night. But that's my plan. That's my plan, and I'm sticking to it.
It's lovely, Lisbon. I was there a couple of years ago.
It's a beautiful part of the day.
Be a hot ticket. Be a hot ticket.
You'll definitely be able to do that. Get the management; should be all right.
Yeah, she'd love it. She'd love it. So we've got people in the chat. If you want to drop any questions for us, we'll do a few before.
Do you know what? There's been a lot of questions, Chris, about whether we should rotate. There's been so many, I couldn't even star them all. But about rotating the league, rotating the Europa. Should we go for it? Should we go for the league? I personally think we've got to go for every game. I want to win the double, thanks. But obviously, I think.
Well said, Amanda. Well said.
It is, but I do think the league is absolute priority. If we've got a chance of winning the league, then unfortunately, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, but the Europa's going to have to suffer, Albert. We can't risk it. However,
Amanda, you know how much I would love to. I'd love to see another European trophy at our football club, man. It's been too long, but I get the argument, because obviously we don't want a league title for a long time either, so it's not a bad problem to have, is it?
Yeah, but also
it's true.
You don't have to choose. Like we can, like Man United are going for multiple trophies. Man City are going for multiple trophies. Like you can actually have, but we can have our cake and eat it. We can go for the league, or we can try to go for the league. And this is me caveating. Up until this point, we have been the best team, and so we should continue to try to go for the league. But it doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice European glory. And I'm like you, Albert. Like, a club of our size should have won more European trophies.
It's crazy. It bugs me so much, honestly.
And so I want us to really go for this Europa League. I want us to go for the Premier League, and I want us to go for the Europa League. I want to be in Budapest at the end of May, celebrating the fact that my team are Premier League champions, and we're going into a cup final. And there is not one team in that competition that I fear. The only team that I might even remotely fear is actually Man United, and that's just because we always get shafted at Old Trafford. Not because I think they're better than us. We always get shafted at Old Trafford one way or another. It happened earlier on in the season. Martinelli scored a perfectly good goal, ruled out. VAR's even the PGMOL even came back afterwards and said, "Oh, sorry about that. That was a mistake by our referees." Oh, interesting, guys. But let's we've got sort of 5 minutes to go. I just wanted to touch on the upcoming games, if that's all right. Amanda, some thoughts on, you talked about rotation and what do we do? And that's been some people in the chat have been doing it. So what does he do for Everton on on Wednesday night? Do you think he brings in Partey? Does he rotate? Does he bring a Tomiyasu back? What's your gut feel?
I do feel that he may stick with the same team. I do feel that Everton at home is going to be very different to Everton away. It always is every single season. I also feel that I don't know, Chris. I don't know what he's going to do. We don't know who's taken a knock this weekend. Martinelli did take a hit, didn't he, straight after his goal? I don't know. I will be talking. I'm not going to give my prediction tonight because I'm going to do it on Tuesday night with the Everton boys. I'm quite confident.
Yeah.
I don't like
The thing
saying
is,
it.
you're right, though. You are right. Everton, we don't play well at Goodison. We've got a history of that in recent years, and they played out of their skin and got a corner goal whilst we were terrible. So a lot of things have to fall negatively for Arsenal for that game to be replicated. Albert, what would you do if you're? What would you do? What would you like to see Arteta do on Wednesday?
I think the back four won't change. I'd be surprised to see Tomiyasu come in. I'd stick with the same front three just because I think Everton's got big centre backs, man, Cody and Tarkowski, and I don't think Eddie will have a good run. Bring him on by all means, but start the game. I'd be happy with the same team if I'm being honest. And they're coming off the back of a defeat, which means they're back in the bottom three. So already they'll take a point. Everton, 100 million% they'll take a point in their predicament. So it's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough. But I'm quietly confident we can still get the job done very narrowly.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to Dice Ball?
I'm there Wednesday. I'll drop you a message, Chris, about 10-15 minutes in.
What's your prediction for that anyway?
Go on, Albert. Yeah.
1-0.
I think we are seeing, as I said at the beginning of the show, I think they're going to be lower. I think it's going to be 1-2 maximum. What about yours, Chris?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0 actually.
Good score.
Because I feel like it's going to be that sort of game that it's going to be difficult. It may not even be. We may even have to wait until the second half because they're basically going to sit low block. They're going to route one it. They're going to look for corners and free kicks. They're going to make it difficult. They're going to time waste. It's going to be exactly the same as Brentford or Newcastle, and we've got to break them down. But we break them down once we break them down. Maybe 60, 70 minutes, then you just fancy us to get a second one. I mean, Carl going for a 4-1.
He's mental, isn't he? He's ridiculous.
I can't see. Do you know what it could be? Do you know what? We could beat them. This could be a game. If Arsenal score early, this could be a game which is a 3 or 4. I wouldn't say it's an Everton one because
if Lampard
I'm not sure where their goals are coming from. But
but they will park the bus. But people are very positive. I've got some other questions for you, Chris.
Yeah, go on. Let's do it. You can ask the questions.
Right. Carl Stark said, question, you really want us to fight on two fronts when it might mean we come up short in them both?
Was that directed at me? I would say yes, because everyone else, every other team is fighting on multiple fronts. So why can't we? We don't have to say we can't compete in the Europa League if we're going for the Premier League. We've got Sporting Lisbon on the 9th of March. We play Bournemouth at home on the Saturday, right? So we play Bournemouth on the Saturday. Then we've got 4 or 5 days. He can send his team out in Sporting. He can rotate 1 or 2 players. This is the other thing. We've got such a squad that if I say to you now, Turner, Tomiyasu, Tierney, Jorginho, Trossard, Vieira, and Nketiah. Let's just imagine all of those players who didn't start the game on Saturday against Bournemouth can then come in for that game, and then we're playing Fulham away on the Sunday, and you're bringing back Partey, Ramsdale, White, Zinchenko. Like, we can rotate and still have a really good team that can have a go and probably better Sporting. So yeah, we don't have to worry about the fighting on both fronts.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is an interesting one. John Rowe. Hi, John. Which would we settle for? Spurs winning FA Cup or Champions League and us winning the league, or Spurs winning nothing and we finish second? John, you sound like a Spurs fan. I can tell you right now, they're not allowed to win the Champions League. I have to emigrate. Even if we won the league, they can't win it. I'll let them win the FA Cup if we win the league. Chris?
Yeah, same. Albert?
Let them win anything, to be honest.
You had to, though.
The FA Cup, it's been, well, they ain't won it since '91, so let them have that. Yeah.
Right, so hi, Unique. Welcome back. The aim of every sport is to win trophies. End of the story. If any fan wants to pick and choose, then how dare you? I'm old school.
Oh,
Very
blimey,
true.
fine talk. I love it. Cool.
Let's see if I've
Any
got
more before we wrap up?
Oh, God. There's loads here, but they're all like mixed in with everything. What's your predictions, people? Simon Leicester, if we ever needed an early goal Wednesday, is that day yet? Because then now I can't park the bus. Right, here we go. Matthew D'Souza, do you have any preference to who gets relegated? For example, if West Ham drop, will we get Rice or do you want Everton's drop?
I hate going to Goodison, so I would happily see Everton be booted out of the league. Southampton's also been a pain in the arse place for us to go to, so I've got no problem with them dropping out. And Bournemouth, it's a pokey, tiny ground that you can never get away tickets to, so I'm quite happy for the current team, the current three that are in the bottom three to get relegated, to be honest with you. What about you, Albert?
Well, if we can get potentially Declan Rice for a bit cheaper than what they're talking, then I'd be more than happy. Sorry, West Ham. Lawless will come for me, but but yeah, the bottom three. I don't think it's going to be tight, man. Really tight, really tight.
It's going to be. Listen, do you feel like this sort of takes over your life? Every morning when I wake up, it is the first thing in my head. I go, "Did we win? Oh yeah, we beat." Or and you sort of go, "Happy Monday," sort of, and then you go into work, and I take a different Arsenal mug in every week. I don't say much. But my Tottenham friend can't look at me at the moment. My Tottenham colleague
Of course
can't
they can't.
stand my cups, and honestly, it's the weirdest thing. I don't speak about it when the boys are talking football. Like they're West Ham and Tottenham, and obviously then we've got Chelsea as well. And and they come in there and they start talking. They'll go, "You're doing well." I go, "Yeah, just carry on." I don't want to get into that whole conversation. We've got one Arsenal fan in the whole company who walks in and just puts his thumb up to me. So I try not to sort of talk about it because it becomes like it's all right us talking, our Arsenal lot, but it's just like. And I went over to the other branch the other day, and there's a Liverpool fan, mad Liverpool fan, and I just laughed, walked in and laughed. So I'm not saying anything. Anyway,
It's one of those things, isn't it? It's
just
none of us want to jinx it. We've had some quite difficult times, but none of us want to jinx it at the moment. Listen, I think we're basically out of time for today. It's been. I always love these because it's whether we win or lose. And interesting what you were saying, Amanda, about you get up in the morning and you think, how did we do at the weekend? And you're talking to colleagues about it. We played 24 matches. We've had 18 weeks of those 24 where we've been smiling because we've won. 18 wins out of 24. That's not to be sniffed at. 3 draws, 3 losses, 57 points. We've got our game in hand on Wednesday night. I really, really hope we can pick up that win, because that takes us to 5 points clear of Man City, and that will feel significant. Another stat, which is an interesting one: if we beat Everton on Wednesday night, we are 1 point away from matching our total points tally of not last season but the season before, when we finished 8th.
Yeah.
That shows you just how far we've come, and I think we can all be happy with that as we wrap up today. But thank you to everybody for listening in. It's been wonderful as always. Amanda, do you have any final things you want to talk about in terms of what's going on this week?
Yeah, sure. But I just want to put that up, which is really nice. Simon Leicester, great show, people. Really structured chat on some pertinent topics. Well done. We don't get paid for this. We just love talking to you all. Tell your friends. Let's build this massive Arsenal community up. We don't shout and scream on here. And even if we disagree, we just disagree in a very adult manner. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, everyone. If you do press like and you do press subscribe, you won't miss any shows this week. Okay, so Tuesday night, I've got Bazar from Toffee TV. Fabulous. I was on there I was on theirs just before we played Everton, as I said. He's coming on, and also Alan Myers, who is massive at Everton and massive on Sky. He's still there. They're actually really good friends of mine as well. So Tuesday night, 7:30. I don't think they're going to be very confident, so I'm going to be nice to them. It'll just be us three chatting. I'm sure we'll be back next Sunday, so we'll have Everton and we'll have Bournemouth to talk about. We need your
Mm.
predictions on Bournemouth, guys, because I'll do mine on Tuesday night. Chris?
Albert, you can go
Oh,
first.
Albert, go on.
2-0.
2-0.
2-0
Chris?
Arsenal. Yeah.
I think it's going to be another 2-0 as well. I'm going to go for 2-0 on Wednesday night, 2-0 on Saturday afternoon.
Fabulous. And next week, I'm sure James will be back because we've missed him tonight, but it's been fantastic. Albert, having you on the show. You know I love you. And it was great sitting with you at football once as well. I'm not that
It
bad,
was.
am I, to sit with?
No, you wasn't. It was. It's a touchy game, man. Touchy game. It was all right.
It really, really was. Thank you to all the lovely. Look at these comments. It's so nice. Love that you're balanced. That's fantastic. Yes. And salute Nigel Plum for moderating.
Go on,
Thank
Nige.
you so much, Nigel. It's lovely of you. Right, everyone. We wake up tomorrow morning again, top of the league. Again, it's just, as I said before, it's never, ever, ever, ever going to get boring. Have a wonderful
No.
few days. Please come and join me Tuesday night if you're free. It would be lovely to have you all in the chat room. I'm going to go nice on the boys because it must be very upsetting at the moment for them. However, we are Arsenal. We need to beat Everton. It would be lovely if Cole Stark was right with 4-1. Absolutely. Guys, good night. Thank you, everybody. Always Arsenal.